You're in a conversation and it's going fine, and then it happens. A pause. 1 second. 2 seconds. 3. The other person isn't saying anything, and you're not saying anything, and suddenly the air feels heavy and wrong, and you'd genuinely rather be anywhere else on earth. You blurt out something, anything, just to fill it. A comment about the weather, a nervous laugh. Why? Why does a few seconds of silence between two people feel almost physically unbearable? The answer reaches all the way back to what it meant to be human in a group. Here's the first thing to understand. Your brain is exquisitely sensitive to social rejection, more sensitive than almost anything else. And to the brain, an unexpected silence in a conversation is a signal, a possible sign that something has gone wrong between you and the other person. Did I say something stupid? Are they bored? Do they not like me? The silence becomes a blank screen, and your anxious mind rushes to fill it with the worst possible interpretation. Why would the brain leap to rejection so fast? Because for almost all of human history, your survival depended completely on belonging to your group. A human alone, cut off from the tribe, did not last long. No protection, no shared food. No help raising children. Being accepted by your people was not a nice to have. It was life or death. So the brain developed an extraordinarily touchy alarm system for any sign that your social bonds might be fraying, and it would rather sound that alarm 1,000 times for nothing than miss the one time rejection was real. A pause in conversation trips that alarm. In a smooth, warm interaction, words flow back and forth, and that flow is reassurance, a steady signal that says, we're connected, we're okay, you belong here. When the flow stops, the reassurance stops with it, and into that gap rushes uncertainty. The brain hates social uncertainty almost more than it hates bad news, because uncertainty means it can't tell whether to relax or to brace, so it floods you with discomfort, a push to do something, anything, to restore the flow and quiet the alarm. There's a measurable side to this. Researchers have studied what happens when conversations hit a lull, and they found that even very short silences make people feel a drop in belonging, a spike of distress, a sense that something is off. And it happens fast. A gap of just a few seconds is enough to make people feel rejected and rattled, even when nothing actually went wrong. The silence didn't mean anything. Your brain just couldn't bear not knowing what it meant, so it assumed the worst. Now layer on top of this something called self-monitoring. In any social situation, part of your mind is standing back, watching yourself, checking how you're coming across. For some people, this inner observer is quiet. For others, especially anxious or shy people, it's loud and relentless, narrating every moment. How do I look right now? Did that land? Am I talking too much? When silence falls, this self-watching part has nothing external to track, so it turns fully inward and starts generating worst-case stories at high speed. The quieter the room, the louder the inner critic. This is why the same silence affects different people so differently. To a calm, secure person, a pause is just a pause, a natural breath in the rhythm of talking, sometimes even a comfortable one. To an anxious person, the same pause is an interrogation. The silence itself is identical. What differs is the story the brain tells about it, and that's the key that unlocks the whole thing. The silence was never the real problem. The problem is the meaning your brain assigns to it, and that meaning you can change. Consider how cultures vary on this, because it proves the point beautifully. In some cultures, long pauses in conversation are completely normal, even valued, a sign of thoughtfulness and respect, a space to actually consider what was said before responding. People raised that way don't panic in silence at all, because their brains learned a different meaning for it. The silence isn't rejection, it's reflection. Same gap, opposite feeling, entirely because of the story attached, which means the unbearable awkwardness you feel is learned, not law. There's also a simple, almost funny truth about who fills the silence. The person who feels most anxious is usually the one who jumps in first, which means the most uncomfortable person ends up doing the most work to rescue everyone else, often by saying something they don't even care about. If you've ever heard yourself ramble about traffic or weather just to kill a pause, that was your alarm system grabbing the wheel. And here's the relief in that. The other person was very likely feeling the exact same thing, equally desperate, equally convinced the silence was their fault. So what do you actually do? The first move is to reinterpret the silence the moment it arrives. Instead of letting your brain narrate it's awkward, they don't like me, you can quietly tell yourself, this is just a natural pause. Conversations breathe. This is fine. That small reframe interrupts the alarm before it spirals, because the discomfort was never coming from the silence. It was coming from the catastrophic story. Change the story, and the same silence becomes ordinary. The second move is to let the silence exist on purpose, just a little, as practice. The next time a lull comes, try not filling it for one extra beat. Breathe. Notice that nothing bad happens. The other person doesn't flee. The world doesn't end. Each time you survive a silence without scrambling to kill it, you teach your nervous system a new lesson, that a pause is not a threat, that you can sit in the gap and still belong. Over time, the alarm gets quieter because you've shown it, again and again, that there was never any danger here. And there's a generous reframe worth holding on to. Comfortable silence is actually one of the marks of genuine closeness. With strangers, every pause feels loaded. With the people you're truly at ease with, silence is no problem at all. You can sit together saying nothing and feel completely fine, even content. So learning to tolerate silence isn't just about easing anxiety. It's about being able to access the kind of relaxed connection that only exists when you no longer need to fill every gap to feel safe. Think of the people you can be silent with. That list is usually short, and it's usually the people you trust most. Silence, it turns out, is something you earn your way into, and the ability to sit in it comfortably is one of the quiet signs that a bond has become real. So the next time a conversation hits a pause and you feel that familiar urge to throw words into the void, stop and recognize what's really happening. It isn't that the silence is unbearable. It's that an ancient part of your brain, terrified of being cast out by the tribe, is reading a few seconds of quiet as a sign of rejection and ringing every bell it has. The silence is harmless. The story is the thing that stings. Let the pause be a pause. Most of the time, it means nothing at all, except that two humans took a breath at the same time.